I made a Pokemon team that can win in only 2 turns. Critical hits in Pokemon have a 4% chance of occurring every attack. If you are unlucky, getting hit by a crit could be incredibly costly. Whether it be losing a Pokemon in a Nuzlocke or in a competitive battle, either way, nobody likes to see themselves get hit by a crit. But what if you could turn a crit into something beneficial for yourself? Well, I did just that with this team right here. The key to this team is Crocodile. This is because it has access to the ability Anger Point, which fully maxes out the Pokemon's attack stat when hit by a critical hit. But like I said, the chances of getting hit by a crit are only 4%. Not exactly the most consistent strategy now, is it? That's where our second star comes in, which is Meowscarada. Meowscarada has a very interesting signature move called Flower Trick, which is a move that is guaranteed to be a critical hit every time it is used. Now, since we are going to hit our own Crocodile with a super effective critical hit, you might be worried that we KO our own Crocodile. However, this Meowscarada has been specially trained in a way to have emphasis on both speed and bulk while having enough attack to do a minimum of 144 damage to the Crocodile or a maximum of 170, which is just enough to leave Crocodile at 1 HP at worst. Of course, I could lower Meowscarada's attack stat further by giving it 0 attack IVs, but it's actually kind of better for us to get Crocodile below a quarter health, and that's because we have another chance to increase its stats, namely its speed, using a Shanahavt berry, which increases the speed of a Pokemon by 1 stage once they are dropped below a quarter health, and from there it's off to the races. But now that you know the core idea of how this team works, let's show off some battles. In this first battle, we select Meowscarada and Crocodile as the leads with Sableye and Flamigo in the back, because it's actually possible to copy all of the stat buffs to both of these Pokemon should Crocodile go down, which I'll showcase later on in the video. But if you didn't notice it yet, this team is all about going fast and hard, but this is a very, very fragile lead. Not only because we are potentially leaving our Crocodile at 1 HP, but also Meowscarada has an eject button, which switches the Pokemon out after taking damage. The reason for this, you'll see in just a second. So naturally, priority moves are a huge threat to this team, and knowing that the opposing Tinkaton could have Fake Out, I opt for a Protect with both Pokemon. Protect is one of 2 ways to keep Crocodile safe when it's low. The other is a very interesting trick which I'll show off later on. And as we predicted, Tinkaton does indeed use Fake Out onto the Meowscarada, and in fact, the Tauros actually also uses close combat into the Meowscarada as well, so technically speaking, Crocodile didn't really need to protect there, but it's better to be safe than sorry. But now with Fake Out no longer an option on turn 2, I know we're in the clear to have Meowscarada Flower Trick Crocodile and have it use Earthquake. Because of how fast Meowscarada is, it's able to go first to trigger all of the stat bonuses for Crocodile. The opponent decides to Terastalize his Tinkaton here, and that could be scary if he did decide to make this flying, because choosing Earthquake means that wouldn't affect a flying type Pokemon, but thankfully he decides to Terra into Steel, which is still super weak to the Earthquake. Now because Meowscarada is pretty fast and I don't think it's going to get outsped by a Tinkaton or a Tauros, it gets to move first and trigger the Anger Point, which now raises Crocodile's attack by 6 stages or roughly 4 times the attack. And because it's now under a quarter health, it also eats the Shanahavt berry, which increases its speed by 1 stage, so about 50%. Since Earthquake hits all surrounding Pokemon, including your ally, you might think that Meowscarada is going to get KO'd here. But because we built it to be bulky, it should survive this Earthquake most of the time. The only chances of it dying is if it's from a crit. So of course, the opposing 2 Pokemon go down thanks to the super buffed attack from Crocodile, but since Meowscarada survives, this is where that eject button comes in handy. By taking damage, Meowscarada is immediately switched out. This allows me to get in Flamigo. This is great for 2 reasons. Firstly, Meowscarada is at low health, so its ability, Overgrow, will now boost Flower Trick by 50% if we need to send it out again. Meanwhile, the newly switched in Flamigo's ability, Co-Star, copies the stat changes of the allied Pokemon, meaning that Flamigo now also gets fully boosted attack and an increase in speed. And this is all technically still on turn 1. So on turn 2, we now have 2 incredibly offensive threats out, and because Flamigo is flying, it also means that we don't have to worry about Earthquake KOing ourselves anymore. However, because Baxcalibur is out, I know that also has a possibility in a priority move knowing Icicle Shot. So I have Flamigo use Close Combat onto it in hopes that it KOs it, and I have Crocodile use Protect instead to try and survive the turn. So Crocodile does use Protect, but unfortunately for me, so does the opposing Baxcalibur, meaning that I will do nothing here, and there's the Close Combat from the Flamigo, and of course Baxcalibur does protect itself, but funnily enough, the opposing Celadurge uses Torch Song as well, but into the Crocodile, so it is essentially a whole turn of absolutely nothing happening. So with that out of the way, I thought, you know what, now that Flamigo is at least out, I don't really mind too badly if Crocodile gets KO'd, because again, I do have backup, so instead I have Flamigo use Close Combat into the Baxcalibur and a Rock Slide from the Crocodile. I could use Earthquake here. In fact, I should have, because actually the Baxcalibur dodges the Rock Slide. That's the bad thing about Rock Slide. It doesn't have 100% accuracy. But thankfully though, it picks up the KO onto at least the Skeledirge, while Flamigo can pick up the Close Combat onto the Baxcalibur for the double KO. I know I did say that this team could win in 2 turns, but that was a bit over 4 turns I think. But that's again mainly because I was a bit scared and tried to play it a bit cautiously because of those priority moves. So instead, I'll show you now in the next one how exactly you can win in exactly 2 turns with some fun little trickery too. Now, like I said, priority moves are dangerous to this team. In the previous battle, we dodged a fake out using Protect, but there is another way we can have Crocodile be protected from an attack, which I'll show off here. So once again, we lead with Meowscarada and Crocodile, and we have Meowscarada use Flower Trick to give Crocodile the buffs. However, instead of using Earthquake, Crocodile will instead be using Rock Slide, which means that Meowscarada will still be on the field on turn 2, since it won't get attacked at all to trigger the eject button. I also terrestrialize into Rock here in order to get the same type attack bonus for being both a Rock type and using the move Rock Slide. I will say, however, that it's nice because it's still going to be super effective when I use Flower Trick against it to ensure that I drop below a quarter health for that speed boost from the Select Berry. However, there is a third attacking option, which is Power Trip, the dog type move that is single target and does more damage according to the amount of stat boost that you have. So naturally it synergizes well with Crocodile being both a dog type and having all of these stat boosts, but also it is a third option in case the opponent has Wide Guard, which would normally protect you from the spread moves. Rock Slide connects on both of the opposing Pokemon and picks up the double KO, and the next 2 Pokemon come out. One of them is King Gambit, which knows the move Sucker Punch. The way Sucker Punch works is that if you use it on a Pokemon that is going to attack, Sucker Punch gains priority and moves first. So of course, if you are the opposing player and you have your King Gambit target my Crocodile and use Sucker Punch, if my Crocodile is using an attacking move, that means that your King Gambit will go first and most likely KO my Crocodile. Now of course, one thing I could do here is just simply Protect, but then I'm not really getting the most usage out of my Crocodile. It's the strongest one on the field, and Meowscarada doesn't have that much attack, right? And that's why I kept Meowscarada in here on this turn. Pay attention to the positioning right here. Right now, Meowscarada is on the left and Crocodile on the right. However, Meowscarada has the move Ally Switch, which causes the 2 Pokemon to change positions, and this has priority, meaning that at the start of the turn, Meowscarada switches places with Crocodile, so that King Gambit tries to use Sucker Punch, but because it targeted the right slot, which was initially Crocodile, that is now Meowscarada. So the move fails to do anything because Meowscarada is not using an attacking move. Meanwhile, Crocodile is now safely on the left-hand side and is able to pick up the double KO yet again, dodging the Sucker Punch from the King Gambit. Now of course, there are scenarios where you can't protect your Crocodile like this, and you sort of have to live with the fact that it's going to go down. Now, you already saw at the start, I kept on mentioning having Flamigo and Sableye in the back, and that the fallback is to have the Flamigo copy the stats, but that's not the only one that can do that. That is why the 4th Pokemon in the back is always Sableye. Here in this matchup actually is a prime example of where things might go awry. As fast as Meowscarada is, there is always the chance that they have a priority move or just simply a faster Pokemon. And if they move first and get an attack onto either your Crocodile or your Meowscarada to trigger that eject button, then that's bad news for you. So seeing that the opposing leads are both Pelipper and Kilowattrel, this is kind of scary because Kilowattrel does have the potential to be faster than our Meowscarada. In theory here, I decide to go for Flower Trick and Rock Slide, but that might actually be a very scary situation because, of course, again, if Kilowattrel does decide to attack us first, then that could screw us over. And also, if Pelipper does know Wide Guard, that would also screw us over. So again, that is where Power Trip would have come in healthy, but I think that maybe they don't know this trick, so I can get away with using Flower Trick and Rock Slide, with of course the terrestrialization for the bonus damage. And it does indeed go first, but thankfully it's just setting up Tailwind so we can do the usual Flower Trick and Rock Slide. However, Focus Sash means that Kilowattrel survives on 1 HP. His next Pokemon is Clodsire, and because of the Tailwind, we are now definitely outsped by that Kilowattrel. So to play it safe, I have Crocodile Protect while I have now Meowscarada switch into Flamigo. This is to ensure that Flamigo can at least copy the stats from the Crocodile. Crocodile of course does use Protect, and it looks like the Kilowattrel does use Electro Ball. Thankfully though, because of the Protect, it does no damage. However, the Clodsire does yawn our Flamigo, which is a bit annoying, but thankfully though, Flamigo doesn't go to sleep just yet, so on our following turn, we can have Flamigo use Feint, which is actually a priority move that breaks through Protect even if the Kilowattrel were to Protect. Meanwhile, the Crocodile can use Earthquake, and again, the nice thing is that Flamigo is flying, so we don't have to worry about self-damage. So of course, Feint moves first and takes out the Kilowattrel, doesn't even Protect. Meanwhile, the Crocodile can then use Earthquake to do big damage to the Clodsire. Unfortunately, it doesn't KO it because of how bulky it is, and it uses Recover to heal back up. And of course, because of the yawn from the previous turn, that means that Flamigo gets put to sleep, which is a little bit annoying, but at least we got it in with the stats to take out that Kilowattrel. His next Pokemon is Goodra, and because they still have Tailwind up, what I do is I have Krookodile protect yet again just to stall out that Tailwind, and I have Flamigo try and use an attack, but unfortunately it stays asleep, so no attack just yet. I try to have it use close combat onto the Clodsire, so of course Goodra's Sludge Bomb does not do anything to the Krookodile, and because Flamigo is already asleep, Clodsire tries to Yawn Mine now Krookodile, but again Protect also keeps it safe from that. And after that, Tailwind does peter out, which means that we are now guaranteed to hopefully move first again with the +1 speed. So we can have Flamigo try and use an Acrobatics onto the Clodsire, and we have Krookodile also using Earthquake. Unfortunately though, he does use his Terra to become Grass type, so it means that he will take less damage from this Earthquake when it does connect. And there's the Krookodile using the Earthquake, and of course it doesn't affect Flamigo. And the damage it does to Goodra and Clodsire, because of the grass typing and because of how bulky Clodsire is, it leaves them both at 25% health. We get lucky and Flamigo actually wakes up, but because we targeted the Clodsire, unfortunately it doesn't KO it. Had we targeted Goodra, that would have picked up the KO, but you live and you learn. You can't expect the wake up. And unfortunately, Goodra does use Sludge Bomb on the Krookodile, KOing it. But again, like I said, as long as we had the buffs onto the Flamigo, we're all good, because that means that Sableye can actually come in now as our final Pokemon after Clodsire uses Recover. So even though Krookodile is no longer available, we still have Flamigo. So as long as somebody has those stats, which is fine. So Flamigo can use Acrobatics to KO the Goodra, and Sableye can use Skill Swap on Flamigo. Because it has Prankster, it also means that it moves first. So Skill Swap goes off, and now Sableye gains the ability Co-Star. And because it activates instantly, it now copies the stats from Flamigo. So now their Flamigo can go and use Acrobatics onto the Goodra and take it out. Now the nice thing about this actually as well is that not only does Sableye get Co-Star on all those stat boots, but also Flamigo now has Prankster. Just like Murkrow, it can now use Prankster Tailwind too, if you still need some speed control. And as you can see there, +6 attack, +1 speed on both the Flamigo and onto the Sableye. And the funny thing as well is that in theory now, if you wanted to, you can also have Meowscarada come in as well and gain these stat boosts as well. If somehow Flamigo were to get KO'd, you can have Meowscarada come in, and then Sableye can skill swap yet again with the Meowscarada, giving Meowscarada the Co-Star ability and having it copy the stats from the Sableye. And the nice thing about it is as well that normally the way that it would work is that if a Pokemon does have Prankster, you can't target Dark-type monsters or Dark-type Pokemon. And Meowscarada is a Dark-type. But remember, right now Sableye would have Co-Star, not Prankster, so it can target the Dark-type Meowscarada and get off the skill swap. But of course, with the two +6 attack, +1 speed Pokemon against just a Clodsire, the opponent forfeits. But like I said earlier, even though the team can win very quickly in 2 turns, it is a very fragile team. You have to be careful about not getting outsped or getting hit by priority moves. If Meowscarada is hit, you just need to hope that you can somehow keep your Krookodile alive and healthy until you can get the two out together again. Because if Krookodile is hit though, there's a very good chance that you won't be able to Flower Trick yourself without KOing it. Take for example this match here where I actually forget about Fake Out being an option, but thankfully only my Meowscarada is hit, so the eject button goes off and I have to switch in instantly. So Krookodile can at least get an attack off, but it doesn't take any damage, which is the important thing. So I'm able to stall out a couple of turns until I can eventually get the two out onto the field again, and then go for the Flower Trick onto the Krookodile once again. The other important thing for this team is that once Krookodile has triggered the buffs, you should try to get Flamigo in as soon as possible to copy those stats. Since Krookodile is likely going to be left at very low health, if it goes down before you copy any of the buffs, the team isn't all too strong. In this match here, I actually tried to ally switch to try and have Krookodile dodge an attack, but because the enemy had set up Tailwind and the Rain, which means that we got outsped, and also the fact that both of his Pokemon moved first and split their attacks to target one of each slot, Ally Switch didn't really do much, but technically speaking, Ally Switch did save me in the fact that Meowscarada went down first, or rather was triggered by the eject button, so that I could get my Flamigo in to instantly copy the stats just before Krookodile went down. That's why, if possible, having Krookodile use Earthquake on turn 1 to trigger Meowscarada's eject button is very good in order to get Flamigo in instantly on turn 1, because in theory, if the opponent has a Pokemon that is able to resist or maybe not take any damage from an Earthquake and they would survive it somehow, then after Krookodile does its attack, they could in theory maybe KO it before you can even get any buffs in. So the option of subbing Flamigo in instantly is able to counteract that should they somehow survive and have a threat on Krookodile. Hopefully though, after watching this video, you've found a new love for self-harm, I suppose, as weird as that is to say. But yeah, if you enjoyed, I would be greatly appreciated if you liked and subscribed. And also, if you haven't already and you enjoyed these types of meme teams, you should check out my other video of self-explosion teams, where I can win by simply exploding and reviving my own Pokemon. I do have some plans in the future for some more fun teams. For example, I have a Scope Villain team in mind that I might make sometime in the near future too. And until next time, bye bye.